Well, I got all my morning chores done, and that repugnant and horrible heat wave that we had has finally blown out. It's a wonderful 82 degrees out here with a nice breeze blowing. Rachel's on the phone doing a session, and it might be an hour, it might be longer, never know. But I thought it would be a great opportunity to bring you out along on the long walk over to the big woods today. As you can see here, we've got the start of some berries coming on. It's not going to be very much longer, and this whole thing will be loaded down with them. Be a good place to sit and watch of an evening. See if any of the little ones are in the mood for fresh berries. Try to make my way around here to the old cattle shed and be about at the halfway mark. I'm going to stop here in the shade and take just a couple minutes here by the old cattle shed and loading gates and stuff. About the halfway point. And even on a cool day, it's still a hike and a little bit warm trying to make it. We started off over that direction. And we are heading back in behind over here. Now you can see a lot of these weeds are shoulder high to me. Way too easy for anything to conceal itself when it's especially evening or nighttime out here. Crouched down or even halfway leaned over, it'd be hard to notice anything unless they want you to notice it. And one of these days I might get a few more cows and that We'll get all this stuff cleaned up and cleared out, but not really much point to it right now. I don't care what kind of shape you're in when you're walking through waist-high weeds. When it's over any kind of temperature, it wears you out pretty quick. Says a lot for the stamina and ability of these big guys, because they can clear this thing in about 15 seconds flat. We'll pick this up again when we get down to the woods. Yeah, I wanted to show you this real quick before we go on back into the woods. If you wondered if there's always water for these guys, on this side of the woods there's two little stock ponds, this being one of them. And on the far end of the woods, it goes into that wet bog that's always got water in it, unless it's just a really bad drought year. But they've got plenty of water holes out here to get a drink out of. This one isn't great big, but it's always got water in it. Man, oh man, I'm getting way too old for this. Now, it is only about 3/4 of a mile, maybe just a little bit more than that, across that open pasture till you get to the edge of these woods. But even with it being 82, 83 degrees, shoulder high grass, milk thistles up to your ears, trying to push your way through blackberry thickets, it's about a 25-minute hike. And I stood here for a minute trying to cool down, picked about 30 ticks off of my skin, off of my clothes, just loaded with them. So I think probably the wisest thing to do from here on out, until we get a good killing frost this fall, I'm just going to take a nice leisurely 4.5 minute truck drive around the blacktop and come in. It's just a little too much right now. But I did what I said I was going to do. I brought a little bit of stuff out here and was going to leave it for the big guys and see if they had any kind of activity over here in this corner of the woods. There we have the crow sounding off above me. But when I was talking to Rachel the other day, she had gone out to that little finger of the woods beside the house and found a brand new arch. There was a glyph on the ground in front of it, and a tree that had been stripped completely bare of all of its bark, about 7 foot up, maybe just a little bit more than that. I'll show you the pictures of that. But I'm thinking logically, why make this long hot hike across here when they're already coming up to that side of the woods on their own account? Just make a little gifting spot there and let that develop. That makes more sense in my brain than doing what I just did this morning. Anyway, I followed through and did what I promised her I'd do. So there's some apples and peanut butter and moon pies and some sardines. So I think I'm just going to leave it right there where it's at and see if anything happens to it on the next go around. Trying to see if I see anything that looks like any kind of little structures or limb glyphs, anything right here in this general vicinity. I got a interesting email that I kind of wanted to touch on today, and it's actually pretty fascinating once you start thinking about it. And anyway, what it amounted to is this individual had a young brother that was taking her on a foot walk to another family member's house. I'm not going to, say names or anything. I don't want to invade their privacy. But long and short of it, the boy had an encounter with one of the big hairy guys, and it scared him half to death. Saw the red glowing eyes, and he was young, I think 6, maybe 7 years old. But anyway, when you're that small, anything great, big, and hairy is going to terrify you. I don't care what it is. But the question was, do the Bigfoot attach themselves to certain individuals, like for years and years, or a lifetime, etc., and so on? Because this individual, after growing up and moving to different locations, has had experiences with them through the course of all of that. And the answer simply is yes, there are certain individuals that their energies, the way that, the Bigfoot perceive them, they are very much attracted to or attach themselves to, whether it's, physically appearing to them off and on through different things like hunting or fishing or being out in the woods, whatever the situation may be, or whether it's in that ethereal mode where you feel that presence and you know it's there. There are certain times, certain events that maybe it's more active than it is at other times. I know in our situation, I was having encounters at a young age, a very young age, very similar to the individual in the email. And it's been an ongoing thing through several states, through several different locations. And of course, we've really put the focus on it here in the last couple, 3 years. But it's always been that back burner underlying thing. Something is there. So I don't negate that happening with a lot of different people. Now granted, some may just have a random encounter, may never amount to anything more than that, possibly coming across a juvenile or a female with young ones or something, and it's just the one and done type of situation. But others, it seems like they just follow them around for life. As far as getting past your fear, being terrorized at a young age, that imprints you, obviously, and you're going to remember that forever. But maybe just in the sitting down in the quiet of the woods and mentally trying to communicate, trying to express what it is that you're feeling from them, that it could be very beneficial on both ends, for you and for them. Just trying to create that bridge to, face the things, face those shadow things that haunt you in your thoughts at night. Woods over here on this side has a lot more sapling growth going on than where we've been frequenting. Well, let me go look around for a few minutes, and if I find anything interesting, we'll bring this back up. Well, I've hiked on down to the bottom. I wanted to check out the gifting tree from last week and see if they've paid any visit to that, which I'm sure they have already. All that wonderful breeze that we had earlier has quit right now. I wish it'd start back up again. Well, it looks like everything is gone minus a few wrappers here. A sardine can, a moon pie wrapper, and a Vienna sausage can. It definitely makes much more logical sense to me for Rachel to set up a gifting area by that new little arch that she found instead of trying to spend half an hour fighting all the ticks and the heat and all of the thorns and stuff trying to get to the outer edge of the other side of the woods. I only had the one little bag of stuff to leave for him, and it's way over there on the other corner of the woods, so looks like I'm gonna have to reload the bucket and come back out here this evening. But I'll tell you what, I ain't walking across the field. We're just gonna drive around to the other side, make it easy on our old legs. I can't see in the monitor. It's looking like something at the base of that tree over there, but well, obviously these guys are expecting a treat delivery. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to wrap this part of it up for right now and get back to the house, get cooled down, take a nice cool shower, put a bucket together, and try to come back out this evening. Well, here we are about 10 hours after I left the woods, and boy oh boy, my legs and my lower back are feeling it now. We thought it'd be a wiser choice to set the camera up with the IR lights here at the edge of the house toward that new arch and just let it see if it could pick up anything. Might catch a little bit of eye shine or maybe some movement back there in the back. But finally got Rachel off the phone or away from the phone.
Yeah, I have not been on the phone all this time.
Well, you haven't been on the phone, but it's been right there.
It's been a very, very busy day.
But I wanted to kind of get your input on what I was talking about earlier about the Bigfoot attachments or attractions, or what would cause one to want to keep, and I hate to use this word, but stalking or being in your space even when it's not something you're.
So I'm asking on Ku because I feel like his take on this might be a little broader than ours. Okay. So the question, he's kind of tilting his head a little in the way that I'm feeling it, and he said, well, there's stalking and there's also the sense of allegiance or loyalty. And
yeah, we're not trying to, make light of it. It's not like we're saying there's one crushing on you or something like that. It's not.
No. But moreover, he's emphasizing that there is a strong draw to individuals, and it's an energy signature that they bear in their own, call it your auric field, your energetic field is the term that he gives me.
Well, just on the surface level, I feel like people that have a natural ability to be an empath or to tap into their own sixth sense awareness, the Sasquatch are naturally more inclined to want to be in those people's space or try to make that contact or connection. Not all the time. He's
giving me the term like attracts like, and they are also very empathic individuals, especially the type 1s. And the feeling that I'm getting in this is that it's a draw because it's familiar and yet uniquely different in that it's in a human. So he said he's saying there can be various scenarios, various occurrences. Some would be more unintentional. If someone were in a forestry and happenstance along a remote creek, or maybe an unexpected, unpopulated environment. He said, but also for the intuits, for the empaths, there's a resonance from that heart space that is uniquely different, and it strikes curiosity first and foremost. Now, in the email that you had me read, one of the first things that I felt was that the individual didn't actually intend to be seen or noticed. And part of the challenge is that for the intuits or the empaths or those that operate in a different sphere, is the word he gives me, they often can see what many can't, unintentionally. It's just kind of a thing. They pick up on or feel differently. They see differently in many cases. And with that being said, I feel like that the individual has been trying to correct over time
a trauma that
a
they
trauma
didn't intend
that
to.
they didn't intend to create for this unique human being. And
I understand what you're saying. It's like all of a sudden my big hairy figure and my red eyes popped out, and oopsie daisy, somebody, really had an impact off of that, and so now they're trying to correct.
and I feel like the signs or the signatures that they're leaving of their presence, that they're trying to do it in such a way that is non-invasive, that isn't scary, but because of the trauma that was suffered originally, it immediately goes back to that. And it's sort of this, what can I try, what can I do to not be that monster, to not be the enemy, but to show a kindness, to show a different face to the individual.
And that's a challenge regardless of who it is, what it is, or,
Even
when you're
for us.
6 or 7 years old and you've had that experience, that's
Sure.
bookcase PTSD that you carry with you forever. So just trying to get over that fear, trying to bridge that gap or make that connection where there's an understanding.
The pain, Anku's saying the pain, the fear, I felt like it was something about being out of control, so maybe even pertaining to bodily function, whatever. Everything that young boy felt, the individual that he crossed paths with felt also. There's a great understanding in that person, the Janu, the Sasquatch, call it what you will, he says. There's a great understanding in the depths of that individual on a very, as if they suffered it in a unique way. They felt it that deeply in his vibration. And I feel like it's an attempt to try to heal in order to also make peace within themselves, for what they felt.
And so that's a shared experience.
Yes.
On both ends of it, feeling the exact same thing after the fact. There is a tie, a connection, a bond right there in
Even
and of
through
itself.
trauma, he said. Even through trauma. And I do feel, because I'm inquiring, is there a resolution? And I do feel that if this gentleman were able to just communicate, I think the fear would be that there would be this monster that he perceived as a boy in his face, like boom. But I'm understanding that through the heart space, if he could just communicate with that memory and just invite it to kind of settle into a different form, settle into a different experience, because it feels like that's the desire behind the continued experiences, is that it can settle into a peaceful place, even if there's no one-on-one, nothing like Ken and I have had in our journey, or some of you. But if there can be forgiveness, that's what I'm hearing. If there can just be forgiveness for the trauma.
Well, I think we've kind of answered that to the best of our ability for the information that we've had.
Yeah. And there are a lot of different types of instances that occur. And I do feel that for some, the people are very close to them from a young age. sometimes a very young age. And some of this might depend on the individual path, and empaths, intuits, particularly empaths, they have a different connection very often to nature, to the earth. They have a unique way of filtering and communicating on an energetic level. And I think that the natural draw for the people is in that connection to the earth, in that ability to feel all of that sublime communication going on all the time. It doesn't mean that someone that's not an empath can't have an experience. It happens. But as far as their natural draw, oftentimes, if individuals would document, if there were a way to document how many of those were intuitive and or empathic, sometimes being the same, there probably would be a vast number in the way that I'm being shown, from Anku. There would be a vast number that are very empathic.
Well, I think what we need to do is let my legs have a good night's sleep, and we need to get a bucket put back together and take it out there. Whether we film or not is irrelevant, but they were chomping at the bit looking for another treat bucket when I was out there this afternoon.
Okay.
So guys, appreciate you tagging along today. Hope you enjoyed a little bit of different terrain, and we'll catch you farther down the trail.
Thank you.